It's aliens and they're living in your town. They have arrived. What? They're all around. So many aliens living in your town.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Weird and Whatever podcast. Can you guys hear that?
Hear what?
I can hear you.
Okay, I am having a tough time hearing anything over here. Okay, yeah, my voice is going on.
Yeah, no, I can hear
All right,
you.
cool.
What, you got something going on with your pot?
Oh, there we go. Ah, yes. And, as always, starting off so smooth. Let's redo that. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Weird and Whatever podcast. How are you guys doing?
Doing
Good.
great.
Not bad.
Not bad. So the big story for our crew here is the seance we did at my place. We've done a bunch of seances, or at least I've done a bunch of seances, and we've done a bunch of ghost investigations. I thought Saturday was not a bad investigation.
It wasn't bad. It was not bad. We got a lot more interaction than I thought we would. Unfortunately, right now on my recorders, we didn't get a lot of feedback. There's
Okay.
not a lot of EVPs. I have a couple possibilities on one recorder that I need you to listen to eliminate that it's your voice.
Okay.
And other than that, I still have 2 more recorders to go over, though.
So what has been going on at my place? I've told you guys last week. There's been tickling when I'm sleeping. There's people. I feel like people are walking around in my room. Now this is completely different than the animal situation living in my wall. They really are 2 separate things, and they clearly feel like 2 separate things. Since we've done the seance, my dad has been acting real weird. He's having vivid night terrors. He doesn't have those. He's been sleeping on the couch because he keeps on having shivers, and he keeps on hearing tapping going on in his room, kind of like what we were doing. We were doing we were doing tapping exercise, and I thought that was kind of odd that my dad would awake to tap, 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 and his glasses broke too. He had his glasses on his shelf. And he woke up the next morning and they were snapped in half. So that doesn't make any sense. My dad wouldn't make that up. He's not lying to me. He doesn't really believe in that stuff. And that was literally within the first 36 hours after our seance.
Right. Now, the one, like I said, I wanted you to listen to what I have because it sounds male, which surprised me that we had a male voice. And the one, like I said, I need you to verify if it's you or not. It was when we first went into your room, and I was saying how, we were going to ask yes or no questions. Can you tap once for yes, twice for no? And there's a voice that says no. And it sounds male. So I don't know whether I don't recall you saying that under your breath. I don't recall Denny saying that under his breath.
I honestly wouldn't have done that if you were literally doing a question thing to the seance.
I wouldn't answer it either.
I would not have answered that.
So it was a little, I did not expect as much to find a male voice, and it sounds like he was a little disgruntled because he wasn't going to follow directions.
Okay, so for people listening on the podcast right now, you had a lot of ghost equipment at my place. Yes. You had a thing that our producer was holding, Angelica. What was she holding, and what was that going off constantly?
Okay, that she was holding our EMF detector, and that detects electromagnetic fields around you. Typically, you're going to have those go off around electronics. Like I had her demonstrate, go over to the wall socket, and it would go off and things like that. It was going off right in the middle of your dining room, and there wasn't any reason for it to electronically. And a couple times, which we do have on audio, I asked it on command to back away from it, and it stopped. So we have more than one incident when I said, if that's you, I need you to back off, and it stopped.
In the paranormal world, is that considered decent proof of something, or is that a lot of bullshit?
For me, it's not. On a scale of 1 to 10, I have to put it like at a 2, only because you always stand the chance that that piece of equipment is malfunctioning. So I did turn it off a couple times. I had Angelica move to a different location and sit in that location for a little bit to see if it was going to go off, and it did not. So I did kind of test it out pretty thoroughly while we were there. So I do have to put a question mark. But as far as me, I got to put it around a 2. It's certainly worth, raising my eyebrow over. but I would have been more convinced with some type of video evidence or audio, which I have not finished all of it yet, though.
You said that you felt something by the couch over by. Do you still stand by that?
Oh, yes. There's definitely something between your two couches, the couch and the love seat. There's definitely something that stands there a lot.
All right, skeptic. You hear what we've done here. Vicky says there's something there. You would confirm there's something there?
Yeah, and there was also an incident where we were in your dining room and I was in the doorway leading to the bathroom. Something touched my arm, and then it was, less than a minute or two, and then something touched your arm as well, and you were in the path.
Yes, I do remember this.
You were in the path of that. If it was walking out of the bathroom, it would have come to me first and then you.
All right, skeptic, eat her up. Tear it down.
So, for sure, I'm skeptical, but I'm not skeptical. What's the best way to put it? I'm open-minded enough to be kind of glad that I wasn't there, if that makes sense. Because look at your dad. I mean, that's like a case in point.
Did anything spooky happen on your cruise?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
did anybody get spooked?
That's a whole other story.
Was it
It was an old cruise ship that was like refurbished. So
Make sure you're talking in your microphone, Mr.
about
Beck.
that?
There
It'd
we
be
go.
cool to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, just lift it up a little bit. Yeah, there you go. Just make sure you're talking right into it. That's Virginia's mic, so
Got
it
it.
should be kind of a little bit lower. 'Cause
I
she-
picture you on like a cruise that's like, you remember those old style gambling boats they would go down the bayou in that had the big wheel that would spin in the back and turn?
Those are cool.
I imagine that's like what you went on.
Steamboat Mickey Mouse. Yeah, I mean, that's what Vicky even warned us. She was kind of worried about doing a seance, so she kind of acquiesced because we had to like go outside the box and do something because we were getting called out for it. So, like I said, I'm skeptical, but I'm open-minded enough to be glad that I'm hearing third-party accounts.
So I'm paraphrasing this. Another psychic, a rival, one of your rivals, said that.
I don't have rivals, by the way. It's not a competition.
No, I'm just kidding. I like to drum up a little drama here, but she was basically calling you out, saying, you shouldn't do a seance. Seances are bad.
It wasn't a seance. It was an EVP session. And anybody who watched it from its start to its finish, all I simply asked is whatever was there to communicate with us. I did not call anyone who was not already there.
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with having a seance.
I think there is a slight difference.
But
there is a difference.
But I mean, I kind of billed it as a seance. In fact, everything we titled was Bird Seance. It felt like a seance. There was a circle. There was lights. I don't think there's anything wrong with having a seance. Why is that so controversial?
Because the difference between what we did, which I would call it a glorified EVP session, I did a few little, extras with the candles, which we also do on our team because we asked whatever was there to interact with those candles to let us know if they were there. The difference is in a traditional seance, you're going to call someone forth. You usually call someone specific, or you ask them to come in a different way. All we simply did was ask who was ever there to communicate with us.
So I get people. Okay, it's so weird. Like we talk about religion, how people can believe the same religion, but then they have such a different perspective. Much like being a psychic, I get such different perspective through emails saying seances are not bad, seances are good. You should be able to call upon the dead, on somebody that you want to have an answer to. There's nothing wrong. But then I'll have another psychic say seances are so disrespectful and so terrible. So who's right? This is a matter of opinion right now, is it not?
Now, if you remember the very first thing I said when we started, I introduced myself. I said I was not there to disrespect anyone who was here, that I was simply there to try to communicate with them and to see if there's anything we can do to help them. That's the first thing that I start off with. Being a psychic or a psychic medium aside, that's good paranormal investigating 101. You're not there to aggravate. You're not there to incite whatever's there to get angry. You're there to ask for communication and be respectful the same way I would be if I walked into any room with the living. I wouldn't come in there with a chip on my shoulder and with an attitude. I would ask them respectfully if they would like to speak to me.
Dennis, you were part of the investigation. Did you have a moment? Did you have a feeling of anything?
I thought it was cool. I like I guess it's EMF, right?
The detector that.
That thing's pretty cool.
The thing
'cause-
Angelica was holding.
Yeah, because that thing does pick up electricity if you go near a socket, but like within an inch of it, it takes to register. You know, so to have it go off in the middle of the room was kind of weird, and to have it react to a couple of things that were being said to it was pretty cool too.
It was kind of like you guys were doing a vaudeville show where you're like, hey, the setup and then the punchline. You would say, hey, ghost, blah, blah, blah. And then it would wait a second and they'll beep, 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 beep. I mean, that was pretty
It was
fascinating. It
eerily
looked staged almost.
Yeah, it was pretty eerie. That was eerie that it was reacting.
And we did make sure, remember, my battery was not good, so I asked you for a battery. You said yours was a brand new battery, because
Brand new.
sometimes it can malfunction if you do not have a good battery. It was a brand new battery in it.
I mean, I look at batteries like flossing. You got to do it a lot. You got to make sure you replace them.
Well, when we used it as intended, it worked great. So to have it go off randomly, which it doesn't usually do if you just have it like, you know, in your toolbox or something.
I just find it weird that there's so many different perspectives on don't do a seance, don't do the Ouija board, do the Ouija board, you got to do the Ouija board. It's just weird
Well,
how
there's-
everyone's got their own code of ethics with whatever they believe.
But that has to do with any belief system we have. It has to do with politics. It has to do with every single thing that you deal with in your life. Everyone's going to have a difference of opinion. And one thing that I've always done, and I've done since 2007, I've been a paranormal investigator. I have always been cautious, and I have always been respectful. And I've never been like, there's this one particular show that I won't call out.
Let's do it. Let's get in the booth. Let's battle rap them. We all can have a verse.
No, this is somebody you see on TV, and they constantly provoke.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
Does it rhyme with? Well, okay. I think I know who you're talking
Yeah,
about.
and that's disrespectful. And I would never be like, I did not do anything that night that anybody could say was disrespectful. to me.
There's one show where they yell at the ghost. Is that I can't remember what channel it's on.
I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm going to go on record. Ghost Hunters is so overrated. Oh my gosh, they never find diddly dick. And it's nothing but sound effects and zoom in. That's all, quick editing. They never find anything.
Yeah.
But I think part of the reason they don't, and I was actually talking to Angelica about this before you guys came tonight, part of it is that I think we would have gotten more that night if I had done a 100% traditional point investigation where I didn't have the extra cameras, we didn't have the extra lights, we didn't have all the extra stuff that we were doing because we were promoting it. And this is my opportunity to say to you, I want to come back, and do it the way I normally would and see what happens, because I think we're going to have a lot more evidence and a lot more interaction.
Well, Vicky, till the day I die, you're welcome anytime, any point you want to. Come on in, So just so you know, and I'm not making this up, this is legit. When you guys left, I went to bed, had a tough time sleeping, and then I came down to get something to drink. I would say probably around 3 a.m., 3:30 a.m., and 3 of my toys from the top were all on my ground.
Okay. Well, that was one of the things that you said that happens. And the time we were there, I had a camera on them. And we were there for a few hours.
Yeah,
I think
we
it was
were.
like 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah, so I had camera on them that entire time. They never wobbled, they never moved or whatever.
I know.
So as soon as we take the camera off, you go to bed, they're down. If it were the air conditioner, which I checked out the air conditioning,
it's
it
not
is
the
not
air.
the air
No way.
conditioner.
No way.
And you don't have anybody on one of your sides, correct? So it could be
Correct.
somebody banging on the wall.
It's definitely not.
It's too much of a coincidence that as soon as someone is not looking, that those things start falling.
But here's the thing, though, because someone could say, oh, you're making it up. I want a camera on that stuff,
Okay.
and I want to be able to maybe do another thing like we did, and then see if we can put a camera there. Because maybe it's almost kind of like a thing where you guys leave, and then they're, here, I'm going to show you what we can do.
Right. No, I can leave the equipment running. I can set it up and I can leave
Okay.
everything running and then, see what happens. Again, if whoever is there knows that we have the camera running, they may not knock it over that night.
Interesting. I just want Bitch Boy Beckett to be able to get involved in some of this shit.
I'm into it. My house. I'm still into my house.
One possession at a time, Mr. Beckett.
So Denny's and I see eye to eye on a lot of stuff, with the exception of a couple things. So him being like not maybe as skeptical. Like I'm curious like how you guys, Jaybird and Denny's, kind of differed in your opinion, experience, or did you guys have a similar belief system?
Good,
afterwards?
Denny's. I've talked enough.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. There was a lot of eerie things I did think happened. Whether I thought they were paranormal or not, I mean, is up to the investigation. I think, like you said, there was a lot of activity. There was a lot of lights. I mean, I was filming the whole thing, so a lot of that could have affected how that seance, or what it's not called a seance, but
The EVP
the
session.
EVP session.
Well, I guess that's what
went.
we're calling it now. I was calling it a seance.
You got to be
but-
PC.
Yeah, are we being politically correct in the seance
Well, I guess a
world?
seance, like you're saying, you're summoning that person specifically, ghost-wise, to you. So I guess we weren't technically doing that. We were just seeing who was there,
Right.
seeing if there was any activity. So I guess it's kind of like,
Vicky did a Jedi mind trick on me. Oh yeah, Jaybird, we're doing a seance. I got
Hey, well, it kind of felt like one to you, didn't it? I just made sure I didn't cross the line of it being an actual quote-unquote textbook seance.
Oh, I'm easily duped. No, you got me.
so is a seance like from Beetlejuice when?
Yeah, I mean,
They
it's
summon-
more like when you're sitting in the circle holding hands and you're calling someone forth that's not already there. We just asked for whatever's there to communicate. And believe it or not, that little fine line does make a difference.
Absolutely.
Is there video where people can go watch it?
Yeah, but I don't know if there's much. I mean, I thought it was pretty cool, but maybe it wasn't as cool as what I thought it was. I'm a hopeless romantic, Becky.
You had to be there. You
She
had to
was
be there.
saying on her group text that Angelica maybe had some kind of like there was some kind of attracted.
Yeah,
to her,
I mean,
right?
it all goes back to that little instrument. We're gonna go back. We'll think if
Yeah, we shot a lot of footage. I mean, we did a seance for, I would say it was 3 to 3.5 hours long, and then packing up and unpacking stuff.
Well, don't you remember, though, when we were packing up and we were almost done, that's when there was the noise, where your dog was in the living room?
Yeah.
And I thought you threw a toy
No,
That's
at the
right.
dog. There was like something hit.
That could have been the rats, though. Who knows? I don't know.
But again, that was after we had packed everything up.
Yeah, I mean, we have nothing for the naysayers. I want proof. Damn it! Damn it! I want proof.
I think
Well,
if you
I still
did,
have 2 recorders.
Okay, well,
that's true.
And we're gonna keep plugging away. I kind of like going to bed at night thinking that I'm part of like a ghost busting team. So let's keep at this, guys. Who's in the mood for another round of Denny's facts? Is that what-
Random facts?
Yeah,
Okay.
random
You guys want
facts.
some random facts?
Is
Yeah,
that
I'm
what it
into- I'm
is?
into it.
We're into it, Denny.
I don't need titles in this world.
Please blow our minds. We need it.
So these are just some cool ones I stumbled upon. I got one I think is gonna blow everyone's mind, but we'll see. We'll see. This is a cool fact I stumbled upon, and see if you guys think it's cool as well. And this was updated just last month with current, so everything is up to date at least a month ago. More than 2,500 left-handed people are killed every year using equipment intended for right-handed people.
How many?
2,500.
That's a lot of people.
I'm
There's a lot of
left-handed.
people.
Oh, watch out. That's a legit stat from updated a month ago.
I'd like to know what those things are intended. Well, I'm pretty ambidextrous.
I think a lot of left-handers do that.
Because, I don't think when I was little, I don't think anybody handed me a pair of left-handed scissors.
I don't think
So
anything.
I cut right-handed. I play baseball. I catch. And, no, I bat like a right-hander, but catch like a left-hander.
Do you think you can hit my slider? I think I'll strike your ass out, Vicky.
But yeah, no, just a fun stat to just from using. Well, think about any equipment if you work at a factory or anything. If you're left-handed in the population, I don't know the number of how many people are left-handed, but it's pretty high.
Denny's, you're blowing our minds over here.
I'm just saying.
Left-handed stats is great.
This is more of a fun one for you guys.
Okay.
When Facebook engineers originally designed the like button, which was to entice people to click things and get us self-rewarding, they originally were going to call it the awesome button. All the way through production until the last minute, they changed it. Cool fact, right?
I like that.
I figured you guys get a kick out of that one.
Oh, Vicky, I think it's trending down now.
Get out of here.
I'm disliking that. I'm kidding. I love it. I love it, baby. Give us more.
All right. If you guys are looking to lose weight, I know Bird's on a diet right here.
He's looking thin.
He's looking real thin. If
No.
we should point this out, by the way.
It's not real thin. I'm looking a little bit thinner.
He's looking gaunt.
No, I'm definitely not looking God. I mean, my trainer Beckett, he's crushing it over here.
Yeah, we threw out all that junk food.
Yeah, you did. You did. It
Yeah.
sucks.
Nah,
I'm not that happy about it. But
We put that video up too if you want to watch it. But yeah, we tossed all up. But you're looking great.
good plug and nice compliment.
Well, so I'm throwing at you here. If you want to help lose a couple extra calories a day, easy peasy, doesn't take any effort. Watching horror movies actually helps you burn calories.
Really?
I'm not even kidding. According to a study, watching a horror classic such as The Shining can help you burn around 184 calories.
I kind of get that because there are some movies or even some of those murder shows that are real, like the 48 Hours where the narrator talks like this.
Yeah.
Those things are so intense.
They put you on edge.
They do. Another movie I always thought was creepy. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, Copycat with Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah, we watched it. That one puts you on edge too.
That puts me on edge, man. I don't know.
It makes sense because it's increasing your heart rate, most likely, right?
Absolutely, and you're sweaty and you're nervous, and it's just an easy way to lose some weight.
I don't know, but stress makes you put on fat too, so it's kind of.
It can.
Well, it's not long term stress. It's entertainment stress.
Do you have a movie, Vicky, that when you watch it or when you did watch it for the first time, you're like, oh, this shit sucks.
Oh, sucks.
Like
Sucks or
where
scary?
Well, it made you scared. Yeah, it made you feel tense. You burn calories.
I haven't been scared at a movie in a long.
Whoa!
What was the
look-
last one?
Whoa, look out, everybody!
Last one was the original Poltergeist when I was a teenager.
Oh wow.
I mean, Vicky's badass. You can't mess with this shit.
Yeah, scare. I
The
get
movie
it.
that movie that made me jump the most is What Lies Beneath. You remember that movie, Harrison Ford?
Harrison Ford and Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, yeah.
really tame, Beckett.
It is tame,
tame.
Beckett.
It's tame.
That got you.
It's a tame movie. It's not a horror movie, but there's a lot of those moments where like
You're right. It's got
she
tense
like
moments.
he like shuts like the medicine cabinet window and it's like boom like in there. Like that's the kind of jumpy stuff.
Event Horizon too. That movie's pretty scary.
Not
though.
only is it tame, it's lame.
Oh, that's
Come
lame
on.
too.
Hashtag I stand with Vicky.
Yeah. What movie scares you the most?
Well, the original Halloween I always thought was creepy because I thought the mask was creepy. I thought the way they shot it was very eerie, and I thought it was a bit realistic. I like movies that are realistic. I don't like when things are so over the top you can't believe it.
Daytime murder is scary.
Daytime murder is very, very scary to me when you have a guy stabbing people in broad daylight. You're like,
Crazy.
fuck. Or, oops, I didn't mean to swear. But yeah, that would be one of them. Shining's pretty messed up too, though.
Shining's very scary. The original Exorcist, they re-released it in theaters. I'd say like 2000 or 2001. They re-released it, and they added one scene where Linda Blair goes down the staircase upside down and backwards, and she's like puking. That scene startled me so badly. I was rattled.
I even thought Poltergeist, the original, was not. I think that was rated PG. I want to say. And that's not a PG movie. There's no way that's a PG
Because
movie.
we weren't pussies back then.
I mean, trees breaking in your house and eating
That
your
movie's
ass.
horrifying.
That's horrifying.
And that movie's PG.
Flying clown dolls. Oh shit, that man.
There's a lot of old PG movies that are questionable whether they should be PG or not.
Agreed.
It's crazy.
All right, here's another Denny's fact.
You guys want another one?
We need it.
Steven Spielberg has been thanked more often at the Oscars than God. That's a
Wow.
statistic.
Denny's, you got to get a sound effect.
See, now you finally blew my mind.
Yeah, you got to get the sound effect. That's what we
Liberal
need.
Hollywood.
And the final one for you guys here. Do you guys know the Cookie Monster's real name? He has a first name.
Is it Jake? What?
You guys all want to take a shot? It's pretty tough to guess.
Give it a guess, Vicky, please.
The more random, the better.
Fred.
Okay, Beckett.
I have no idea.
Give us a
Yeah, you
guess.
can think of a name. There's millions.
John.
John.
Oh, John,
come
the
on.
most generic.
That's the most
Original
common
name.
name, Beckett.
It's Sid. Sid is the
Sid.
first name of the Cookie Monster. I figured.
Sid
I'd let
Cookie
you guys-
Monster.
Yeah, that's
Huh.
his name. Well, I
Interesting.
think his name's Sid, but then people start calling him the Cookie Monster, and then he kind of just rolled with it.
Well, I got to give you a. I thought that was pretty
That
good.
was good.
It's a good
Thanks,
round.
thanks, Ed.
I think we're gonna keep that.
I like it.
So we got an email here talking about last week we talked about that black helicopter. Remember that story about how the one guy was running in the woods and a black helicopter
like
came down.
pursuing him.
Yeah, and then the guys came down with guns and it was a crazy thing. Well, we got somebody who's emailed the show and said it happened to them. Dear Weird Whatever, I couldn't believe you guys brought up the black helicopter. The same thing happened to me. I was 17 years old living in Pennsylvania. I was walking alongside a dirt road when I noticed this black helicopter flying low and heading toward me. I thought it was awesome at first. I didn't run, kind of like what you guys were saying. Don't run, just see what happens. I didn't run like the people did in Jaybird's story. I stayed still. When the helicopter got really close to me, I started to freak out. Just like you guys said, 3 guys dressed in all black pointed guns at me. I froze in fear. This lasted for about 2 full minutes. Then they took off and I never saw them again. The helicopter looked like it was a Secret Service type of helicopter. This happened in the year of 1995. Love the podcast. You guys talk about crazy shit. What do you guys think about that?
That was around the time of Airwolf, wasn't it?
That was the same time, I think, as those
Remember
other
Yeah, I
stories as
do.
well when we talked about that. That was the
for
same
sure.
time period. Is that made up? Is there really something going on with black helicopters chasing people?
There was in Stewart when we used to go surfing and stuff. There was this one helicopter that was all black that had like a star on it. It was like a silver star. We thought it was like a, but then we saw one that had a different like logo on it. It was black, but it never like pursued us or anything. But you wonder what that. You wonder if that's like a military helicopter or if that's like a, who knows? You know, we
Yeah.
never figured it out. It's a mystery still. I'm sure somebody knows out there.
I just find it odd that there's several accounts of that and no one's ever reported on that. There's several UFO stories and people who have been in the government, and I know we've talked about it so many times, but they're going into the news, they're going into the media, they're reporting about stuff they've seen. These are legit, credible people, and nobody's reporting on it.
Right.
They'll go on the news, but it's reported on like at 12 a.m. on a cable station.
Right.
Stuff that there's where people have seen something, they don't understand why or what it was. They go back to their superior. The superior says, we don't know what it was, and you can't talk about that. And they're going out into the media talking about that, and nobody's reporting on that really.
Totally.
Why is that?
I
Vicky,
think
what do you think?
Maybe fear of, once someone says you can't talk about it, and then they do a little bit, and they get, look at you. I mean, people are constantly saying negative things towards you when you talk about ghosts and things like that. So,
Ridicule. I mean, this
Right.
last seance thing, I don't think I've ever gotten this much hate about ghosts, to be quite honest with you.
so I'm just saying, some people just don't eventually just keep their mouth shut because they don't want anything. And especially
Yeah.
if you're a government agency, you don't want somebody within that agency talking about things that people are going to make fun of, honestly.
I didn't mean to cut you off, Dennis. You had a point about that?
I just think it was originally established to crush the credibility of anyone who saw something UFO related. Whatever their motive was at that time, whether it was a UFO or it was spying on Russians, whatever they were doing at that time, where they wanted nobody that saw something in the sky to have any credibility to them. That was their ultimate goal, and I think from that it just has continued forth like that.
Well, if someone sees something and they have a legit encounter where they really believe it, Beckett sees a ghost, it comes up, it kisses him on his neck, and he really believes that this happened because he saw it, he felt it. Then all of a sudden through time, people say, you never saw that, you're crazy, blah, blah, blah. Is there something with the human brain where you hear so much negativity where you start to second guess something that you know really happened?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
I think that does happen.
Well, I'll use an analogy and I'll walk the line carefully because it's sensitive. But like people that with sexual harassment do the same thing, where they're like, "Well, why are they coming out 20 years later about it?" And they're like, "Well, they were embarrassed. Number one, they didn't think anyone would believe them. Number two." So to your point, yeah, I mean it's an analogy. I mean it's apples and oranges, obviously, but that's an analogy where people
Withheld information.
withheld
for a
information
period of
based on
time.
what they thought the reaction was going to be and how it was going to be received, and does it affect their job? Does it affect-
Absolutely.
Totally, your
but
well-being.
I think, we talked about how people have experienced this and they wait till they're retired and they're older or whatever. And I think with age, some of that you don't second guess yourself. You're like, you know what? I saw it. I felt it. I don't care whether you believe me.
Yeah, for sure.
And don't you think too, the older you get and the closer you get to the Green Mile, you start to kind of shed a lot of the things that you were insecure about before.
For sure.
Where you're like, maybe when when I was 20, I wouldn't say this, but at 30 you would, and then things you wouldn't say at 30, at 40 you would. I think at least that's where I feel like I'm going in my life. The
yeah.
older I get, I'm like, I don't really give a shit if people think I'm insane.
Well, that's grumpy old man syndrome,
It
right?
is.
That's
It
what
totally is.
They give 0 Fs. It's just
we
kinda
see
like,
why it happens, though.
I totally see why it happens.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, especially if you really do believe in something and you've had an experience and you know it's a knowing, not even a not an opinion. To you, it's a knowing.
For sure.
I get how you could be like, I don't give a shit what you think.
Yeah.
Stop,
This is
stop
how I-
caring.
Well, the other thing too, I think is very important for everyone to believe is we all know the end game here. We're going to die. I don't say that to be depressing. I say that to let's go, let's do it. Let's follow that dream you want to do. Let's ask out that person you want to ask out. Let's not be afraid to do whatever you want to do because life really is so short. It's the longest short thing I've ever seen in my
Totally.
life. The paradox.
It's right when you learn.
I've heard that before.
When you learn about a longest short thing.
The longest short thing. Yeah.
It's just a shame that when you realize how fragile and how fleeting it is when
Well-
it's later in life. The beginning when you have when you can have it all, it's like you just don't know it all yet. It sucks.
To me, the scariest thing would be on your deathbed and say, oh my gosh, I lived my entire life the wrong way. I worked at a job that I hated.
Just did it wrong.
I didn't take the chance that I wanted. I mean, it's not too late. You can not to turn this
Totally.
into a, self-help motivation
For sure.
sermon, but I do believe, I do believe once you realize how short and quick it is, but sometimes that's all perspective. I think you don't understand that kind of stuff until something happens in your life to make you realize, holy shit, life is really short.
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely.
A death of a loved one or caring for someone who's really, really sick. I think that you're
Well,
like, oh my gosh, this is really, really quick.
When mortality is brought to reality, it really makes you think because otherwise you try to distract yourself. That's what you do.
I think it's all distraction. I think we're all distracting ourselves here on this planet.
Absolutely.
Are we not?
Why
Yeah.
would you care what color your car is? It's
Well-
all just distractions.
We all take our career so seriously, and we think our own world really is the entire world. I think that's just the power of the ego in the human species. But when you think about it, and I say this as a positive thing, the stuff that's getting you down, like the small stuff, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
There's that one book, it's all small, or don't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah.
because it's all small stuff.
Yeah, totally.
It's hard to get that sometimes, though.
And
Yeah.
then you have to realize like what you think is important and what your country thinks is important. When you go to another country, which you've experienced this more than I have, but when you go to another country, like when I was in Jamaica, they're not all driving these expensive cars. They're driving these little beat up Toyotas and Hondas, and they could care less. Here I am, I have this huge car payment because here I need a nice car. I need this, I need that. And everything there was so much more laid back. They don't worry about the same things. And that I was actually driving here and I was looking around at cars and stuff like that and I go, wow, I just want a simpler life.
Yeah.
I don't want to be caught up in all this stuff.
Well, Denny's, you've talked about how, it all depends on your situation. If you're in a third world country and your
needs and wants shift.
if you're literally every single day you are struggling just to survive and to eat, and that's your being, your perspective on the world and life is so different than someone living in
Anywhere.
Jupiter that's on their phone texting and
Totally.
they have all the
They're-
amenities.
They have uncomparable problems. They
But-
they can't compare them.
Both are born here on Earth. Both are humans. Both, according to all of us, I would agree that we all are the same.
Totally.
But completely different perspectives. It's
And it's every country. I mean, everyone has their own governing laws. And then within countries, you have states that have their own governing laws. It's crazy how many different outlooks there could be on just living.
Do you think people's overall perspective is based on the region they grew up in, basically kind of like their culture? So if you grew up in South Florida and that's all you've known a South Florida way of living, is that pretty much what your belief system is? And if you grew up in Kentucky and everyone's thinking one way, is it a regional thing on how humans interact with one another?
Yeah, I think that you can look at the country, the world, and you can say, well, these areas tend to be more liberal, right? And then there's a tribe mentality, a pack mentality that goes along with it, and people that live in the United States have a certain mindset. So when you travel, for sure, there's some genetics that come in it. But if I was born in China, I wouldn't know any English. Like, I wouldn't have the perspectives I would have. Like, if I was just born there, of the same parents, same genetics, whatever, I'd be more or less, a very, very different person with very different perspectives. So that's why I think that It's so important to travel.
Vicky,
Yeah, I think at some point we are a product of our environment. And I think that, like Ryan said, when you travel and you open your mind and you, open yourself to other cultures, other ideas, and things like that, that's when you kind of get out of that mold. But I think most of us at some point are exactly our environment. We just tend to hopefully grow out of that and see other perspectives.
Mr. Train, Peace Train, anything to add on the last part of this segment?
I guess the easiest comparison I can make is if you were raised in like Tennessee as a good old boy hunting and living life like that, compared to somebody who was raised in like Los Angeles or Manhattan who doesn't hunt, doesn't go out and do those type of things. Even just in our own country, those two places being raised, you have vastly different outlooks on how things will be. And typically they're kind of different, so they kind of clash if they come in across each other. Like you got the country boys, you got like the socialites from Manhattan, and they have different opinions on things. So even on that basic level where everything's the same except for where you were raised, you are a different person.
And it's really not even that far.
And that's not
from
even
one another.
far. That's a
it's the
super
same,
easy
it's
comparison.
the same country.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So if you open that up to other countries with their own customs and everything, and I've always had an issue, and not to get too heavy and stuff.
Get heavy, man.
With
Get free form.
With racism, I feel like racism doesn't necessarily exist. More so, it's people don't like cultures or things that are different from theirs because they don't understand it, and it's just a bad education of how their culture works compared to their culture. And it's almost like they just are kind of like, all right, they're a little uncomfortable around a different culture. Not so much necessarily like a race of people, just how they live their lives are different from how you live your lives.
Vicky, what are your thoughts on that? Oh, here, keep going if you have something to add on to that.
Oh, and I was just going to say also, I think people are more prejudiced against personality types than actual people or gender or race or creed, any of that such. I think there's personality types that conflict with other personality types, and people misconstrue that as like a racist thought or something.
What are your thoughts on that, Vicky?
I mean, it's been proven over and over again. Children don't see color. They play with whomever until someone puts it in their mindset that they shouldn't play with that child. They're fine. They treat everybody the same. So I do think that racism, whether it's against someone's culture and being uncomfortable around a different culture, or just being uncomfortable around a different skin color or whatever, I think that's completely learned.
And there's always going to be separation too, whether it's people are going to find a problem with someone's race, or if it's not race, it's going to be, well, they're millennials and we're not millennials.
Or
and
political views.
Or if it's not even political views, it goes to gender. Okay, I'm a guy, you're a girl. And it just seems like humans have a way of, no matter what, finding a way to divide and separate. So that's why I wonder if someone's region where they grow up shapes their perspective on all that type of stuff, and that kind of goes.
I feel like it would have to.
Beckett, what's your to Denny's point? Do you have any kind of counter?
I think he's right, but I think it's more nuanced than that. I don't think it's
for sure.
It's it's not black and white.
Absolutely, I'm trying to express it as eloquently
because
as
racism
possible.
is a real thing, and there's some people that will look at somebody just based on their race and have stereotypes.
Hatred. But,
and that's ridiculous.
But that's what I'm saying is I feel like that's ridiculous. I feel like it's more so that they have a personality conflict more so than it actually is having anything to do with their race.
So I agree with a lot that Denny said, and
sure.
For sure what Vicky said, because it's learned. I think it's learned. Like
yes,
I make a joke.
For sure.
I make kind of a joke, like when it's kind of the veg joke. Like when a baby's born, you give it an apple and a bunny. It doesn't eat the bunny and play with the apple.
For sure.
That's like an instinctual thing that a baby doesn't know. And and the same thing with playing around with different races and boy and girl. Like it doesn't, it just doesn't. It's just normal, right? But I do think that sometimes people get called out for being racist or profiling or something like that. When there are certain cultures that treat women not great. And certain cultures and certain religions have tended to be more violent than others. So sometimes, there's the pendulum always, we discussed this after the show and whatever, the pendulum sometimes swings too far in either direction. But it's great for people like us, friends, politicians, to have civil discourse about it and discuss it and then help advance society. Because I'm maybe overly optimistic, but I think society, even though kind of like the stock market, it goes down and up, crashes a little bit, but it always has kind of an upward trend. My belief and hope with humans is that, you know, we were in medieval times, you know,
Sure.
and people we weren't so diverse, you know,
For sure.
And I think that even though we take some major step backs every once in a while, I think that the trajectory of how is getting better and better, in my opinion. And I think that the more people travel and the more interactions with people in terms of just interacting with someone at the coffee shop or something, and now there's more interracial couples, you know, as crazy as it sounds, like people never thought there'd be one unit of currency in Europe.
For sure. And they could have the euro.
Eventually, I mean, once we have Hyperloop and we can eventually, like, everyone's going to be the same race. We started out
and
as
we'll
the
have
same
like
race.
a world currency.
Exactly, and everyone's just gonna like look like Dora the Explorer and be ethnically ambiguous and be the same. You know.
Well, I mean, I think about, I talked to Denny's about this a lot, how I was so fortunate, and it took no talent for me to be born in South Florida. I was just born in South Florida.
Yeah.
No talent took that. I was fortunate and lucky enough to be in a place that was diverse. It was a place that was beautiful. It was
Yeah,
a place that was
sure.
amazing. But that's the luck of the draw.
Totally.
That's just merely me just getting lucky on that. So if someone's born somewhere where it's not as peaceful, that's not their fault. They're just, it's the luck of the draw. That's why I've never understood my way and this way. It's like, dude, you were lucky you were born somewhere. It doesn't even make any sense to me.
That's such a good point.
In-
Well, I won the lottery, but being born in, I mean, this is a beautiful area.
You were lucky.
I love it here.
As a white male, you know, like that's, you know, attractive. Like
Do you find me attractive?
You're an Italian
a
stallion.
good baseball player.
But I'm just saying that took no talent.
right.
You know what I mean?
You were just-
I was
you
just
just
lucky enough.
existed.
Yeah, so I shouldn't, like, yeah, I was born in South Florida, motherfucker. Like, it was talent.
I get it.
There
Like
was
local,
no talent.
local
Yeah.
town pride always was odd to me because I was like, you were just born there.
Yeah.
You didn't build the town with your hands.
It's just weird. It's just a weird thing.
It
I
is
don't
a
know.
weird
You
thing.
could say that about a lot of things in terms of like born into wealth. you know.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It doesn't take talent to be born into wealth.
takes-
I'm not saying you're a bad person.
Absolutely
I'm
not.
not saying
Nothing bad about
you should
you.
be cursed and damned. I'm just saying sometimes people are born into a situation, and when you look at other people's situation, you're like, damn, you should always, I think, at least count your blessings. I think that's a good thing.
Absolutely. You should just always be thankful.
For sure, because not everyone gets a
And it's
good
healthy.
ride.
I wish there was more shows like this where they take things and they have an open mind enough where they can look things from all different angles and different
Oh, yeah.
perspectives and be okay with that, you know?
Oh yeah, but the one thing I'll say about the internet that I do like, because there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of great things that come from the internet. There's a lot of terrible things that come from
The yin and
internet.
yang, baby.
The yin and yang. You can't have that much power without that much evil. It's
Oh.
impossible. You have to have it.
And I think we all agree the internet is, I mean, you could argue the most powerful thing we've ever seen in our lifetime.
Totally.
You could argue that.
But right now, it's in a trend of dividing us as people into opinions or what we think. Like if you're vegetarian or if you're a meat eater, there's a category right there. You're this, you're that. Boom. You've now been split into a category. But also, this person likes rock music. This likes classical music. You've been split into another category. We're just being put into all these categories that just continually divide us. So with that same exact power, we could in turn use it to unify us all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have the same.
It goes through trends of unifying and then de-unifying, and right now we're in a de-unifying one.
I have being in the media, it feels weird to say this, but the media, I think, has failed greatly as far as trying to constantly divide people. I think you should report things as they really happen, and I think I think there's some things that should not be, I don't know, Jerry Springered, if that makes sense, sensationalized, because it does cause a lot of harm.
For sure.
Constantly dividing and constantly showing negative things and thinking the world is nothing but negative. Because I think we all agree there's a lot of negative shit
For
out there.
sure.
But I do know a lot of awesome people in my life that have a heart of gold, that want great things for everybody. They want unity. They want peace. And I just feel like a lot of times that is not reported on. And I feel that is a disservice to people sometimes.
For sure.
Unfortunately, they're in the entertainment industry. Like we were talking earlier, like how many movies do we go watch that are just about peace? You know,
Yeah.
we like to watch horror movies. You know,
And it's
Scary
tou-
movies with conflict.
Yeah.
And it's tough because you feel like a hypocrite being in the media because we talk about a lot of shit that is
Yeah.
sensationalized, and you're like, is that the right thing to do? That's
It's-
always the conundrum.
It's a struggle.
It is.
It's weird because, you know, like the saying, it bleeds, it leads. It's such a bad thing, especially rating news, because now there's a pressure on it to excel in some sort of, instead of reporting news, it has to have something that grabs you.
Well, there's a thing now where people are saying it's news when it's really an opinion piece.
Right.
It's columns is what it really
Yeah.
is. What is your opinion on the news, Vicky? Do you think there is a legit source where somebody can get legit news?
Nowadays, I would be doubtful. I don't watch the news a lot because I find most of it to be depressing.
Very much
For
so.
sure.
I agree with you
And
on
then
that.
I find that I'm getting angry
yeah.
when I watch it. So I choose to remove myself from that. If something major's happened, somebody will give me a shout out and let me know.
So where's the where's the line at, I should say? Should you be informed and be mad at the stuff you should be mad at, or should you always be mad, or should you put your head in the sand?
It's a tough question.
Where do you go with, you know, the stuff that you take in? Because I am a big believer, like you're saying, the news depresses the shit out of me, and then it makes me kind of less of a better person. I don't respond good to a lot of depression. I need to be uplifted. So for a person like me, knowing about all the depression isn't always a good thing for a person like me. That doesn't make that right, but am I putting my head in the sand to the issues of the world?
Tough.
And I do. I read enough, and then if I find myself getting irritated after I've, read different sides or whatever and got enough of quote unquote the facts, and then if I find myself getting irritated, I just back off of it.
Yeah.
I do that for me because I can't, like you said, I don't want to be around that. I can't take in any of that.
So there's a friend of mine who has a philosophy, and I wanted to see what your guys' opinion was. Is this the right way or is this the wrong way? His philosophy is this: I've got my wife, I've got my family, I love them very much, I treat my neighbors kindly, and I try to do in my own little sliver of my world. I try to knock out all the bad stuff and not concentrate on that. I try to make a good world for my family and a good world for the people around me, and that's how I'm going to live my life. Is that the right way, or is that putting your head in the sand on stuff?
It certainly helps to surround yourself with as much positive as possible. But the reality is, once you step out of that little zone that you've created, you're going to come in contact with the rest of the world.
Could you argue, though, if everybody had that perspective, the world would be a better place?
It absolutely
Oh,
would
for
be.
sure. Everybody would just
Yeah.
do their own thing.
If everyone concentrated on their own little spot of being kind, peaceful, whatever, you would argue the domino effect of
Oh, for sure. It's just impossible to reach that high of a percentage of people all agreeing.
that never happens in the history of humanity. Even on our last day here, we never.
It's hard to say, man.
We never reached that.
You would hope so, but
It's a great philosophy to live by, but you need people to go out and prevent people from gassing their own citizens. Like, you need people. We live in a republic, right? So we vote for our elected representatives. So we need our whole thing is basically founded on is an informed electorate. Because if we just have a bunch of people voting based on what their neighbor said or their family said or their friends said, like, you have no different perspective as to what's going on. Like, you need to listen to the guy that grew up hunting in Tennessee and his perspective and what's going on with steel to have an informed, educated point when you go to that ballot box. And it's really, really important for your city, your state, your country, and the world. And, we had an isolationist mentality going into before World War II. Like, that was Germany's problem, that was Austria's problem, that was Poland's problem, that was Europe's problem, that was UK's problem, and then it spills over. Then it's Pearl Harbor, then it's our problem. And then we went in and we liberated all the concentration camps. We're like, never again will we not get involved, because we're so, especially nowadays, you're so globalized. Something happens over in the other side of the world, it can affect us,
for sure.
And with great power comes great responsibility, as cliche as that is. I
That
think,
does
too.
not sound cliche at all. That does not sound like that was in a superhero movie.
I think for Earth to unify, it would take alien force, something from another.
I've always
planet.
said that.
That would be because we would have to. Then you would have no choice but to unite.
100%.
There's no way there's not aliens. I'm sorry. That's one of those things where I know there's
Blows your mind that anyone could think otherwise.
there's no proof, obviously. I mean, you have stories, but it's almost unknowing to me. I don't get how people can think
It's pretty
that
hard
we are here and there's nothing else out there. Are you shitting me?
It's pretty hard to think that we're the only planet that has life. That's pretty tough.
If you ask some of the smartest people that have lived, like the Stephen Hawkings, like Einstein's, people like that, they agree with what you just said.
Yeah.
You can, reasonable people can debate whether or not they've been here, whether or not they've probed people and stuff like that, but whether or not that they're out there. Most people that know a lot more than most people and are very intelligent in terms of IQ, in terms of research, knowledge, all that stuff would say for sure.
For sure.
The chances of life out there is almost definite.
Has to
Vicky,
be.
by the time you die, do we get alien proof by the time you die, in your opinion?
Not by the time I die. No.
By the time I die,
Yeah.
which will be
You
probably.
called me way older than you. Yes, you did.
I did not. Do not read into that.
And what if aliens aren't projected to come here for another,
I-
10,000 years?
I personally think we've already had contact here. I really do. I think there's ways to.
You could argue that they've come and gone and left evidence and then have not been back.
I think it happens when I'm a grandpa.
I just feel like there's so many people who've had experiences, and I think a lot of them are bullshit, of course, but I do think at least 5%, something has happened. I mean, I know people in my personal life that have had at least UFO encounters. Now, of course, that could be military, but we're talking about stories from the mid-'80s where it wasn't really out there. This kind of equipment with what people that worked in the air industry, they know. I would imagine they would know. Kind of like we're in radio, we know certain things that, almost like insider kind
For
of things that
sure.
other people don't know. You'd think people in the air, the airfield would know certain things. It just, I don't know. I don't think everyone's lying about it. I don't think all of these people who are astronauts and in the government
For sure.
are lying about it.
It was a really paranoid era, though. They had the Cuban Missile Crisis they were worried about. I mean, there was stuff that they were worried about other countries, Russia coming over here. There was a lot of concerns and a lot of mania going on, too.
Well, you could argue, too, because of the Cuban Missile Crisis, that's why UFOs came down here, because they wanted to...
Stop shooting torpedoes and stuff.
Absolutely, that's a theory for some people.
For sure.
I mean, my encounter, when I saw it was either 1980, 1981. And I'm pretty confident that we did not have technology to make that ginormous thing that I saw in the sky disappear at the snap of my fingers.
Okay, so that's a great point. So you have people in the military who say, guys, there's no way there was equipment that we had available and we saw this and blah, 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 blah. So if someone was lying, that would support the theory that there is this upper secret part of the military that doesn't tell anybody shit, and that it's almost borderline like the Illuminati kind of a thing. You would argue, right?
Yeah.
If people in the military are saying that no, this technology does not exist, and then all of a sudden, people are on the upper end are saying, oh yeah, maybe it does.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, dude, the government definitely, every government I imagine in the country, if they can afford it, is working on some sort of futuristic technologies.
I know.
Because it's all about advancing, man. Ever since the microchip, where we just want to get faster and smaller. It's weird.
You don't have to yell at me, Danny.
No, I'm just saying. I agree.
All right, you guys ready for some Would You Rather?
Yeah, I love this.
All right. I tried to
Are
go.
you gonna make them hard?
I'm gonna try to make them hard. These are a little weird, so I apologize if they're a little out there. All right, Mr. Beckett, you're up first.
Uh-oh.
And keep in mind with these, there's no loopholes. It is it is two terrible things, and if you even question the question, I'm gonna throw terrible loopholes at
You're
you.
not gonna put it between have to kill someone that's on this podcast or something, do you?
Well, just
Ah, jeez.
buckle up, baby. Okay, Beckett. Would you rather never be able to hook up with anyone ever again for the rest of your life, including yourself, meaning you can't touch yourself, you're able to make out with somebody, but you are going to have these urges and there's nothing you can do about it for the rest of your life?
This is half my day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's big. Okay. Or make sure myself, Denny's, and Vicky could never make more than $5,000 yearly for the rest of our lives, and that is before taxes are taken out. I mean, you totally. I mean, you financially cripple us for the rest of our lives. That's 3 of us too.
And I have children.
Please feed us.
More.
5,000 a year, huh? So 15,000 in total.
But I mean, that's before taxes. So we're looking probably honestly like 11.5, 10.5 maybe.
Can I have kids?
You can adopt.
I can't.
You can't. No, you can never masturbate. You cannot ever have an orgasm again.
Can't they just like extract it or something?
Are you asking questions? Because the Great Wizard of Oz is going to make it even harder for you.
Oh man. I don't know. I feel like if I couldn't have any kind of sexual anything, then I'd be really rich. Because I'd have so much more.
Yeah, but I mean,
You'd think about it, it would drive you mad.
it would drive you insane. If you got a boner, there's nothing you could do about it. You'd have to just let that thing go flaccid.
Take a cold shower.
That's your entire life. Or we don't make shit for the rest of our lives.
That's a tough one. You might have stumped me.
Well, Beckett, we know where you stand with your answer.
I don't know.
Are you eating candy? Because make sure you really get that in the microphone.
What is that,
The
butterscotch?
little lozenger.
We couldn't tell.
All right. I guess I go no sex.
You go no sex?
I don't know. This is a tough one.
Is that the politically correct answer? Off
Yeah,
the
what?
mic? Off the mic, you're saying, no way, I'm totally going to have sex.
There's no hard feelings.
Can I
either.
take care of you guys if I'm rich?
Meaning,
Maybe I make a lot of money and then I decided to take care of you guys.
well,
So-
that means you have to take care of Vicky and her family, Denny's and his family, and me and my family for the rest of your life.
I'm high maintenance.
I would
too.
do
And
that.
I'm real high maintenance.
I
I
would-
love Red Lobster a
to do
lot.
that and be able to have sex, I would do that in a nanosecond.
But you have to make so much money.
Yeah.
what?
You have to make
Bankroll.
so much money.
No, you guys are so low maintenance.
That is such a
Yeah.
bullshit.
No.
Oh my gosh. Corn fritters, dog. I love them.
exactly
On the reg.
I can handle that.
Denny's with his weed. You
Yeah,
gotta make a
that's
lot
a
of
big
money.
expense right there.
Vicky with her.
Expensive cars and purses.
Yeah, you got a lot to think about.
Well, we started out this podcast saying how we don't need things.
Oh, your life, your life would suck so
If you were
bad.
she
paying
doesn't care
for
about
it.
what color car she drives.
Oh no, and we'd be so demanding. And if you didn't have our rent every single month, the deal is off, and you turn into a lizard for the rest of your life.
I think I can handle it.
All right, I totally don't think you could. I mean,
man.
such a burden. You basically just took on 3 families on top of. So you're really paying for 4 families.
Yeah, but you guys would. Yeah, but that's
No, no, we'd be bitches about it. I'm gonna be a bitch about it.
So do I get your $5,000
I mean,
if I'm taking care of you?
already this deal is terrible. All right, Vicky, your turn.
Okay.
I'm not really buying Beckett's, by the way. I'm just letting you know. All right. You have a chance to save Denny's or Beckett from a murderer. It's like the movie Saw for that person. It lasts over 48 hours. Who gets it and why?
Oh man.
Like nowhere near as fair as his.
That was tough.
That is, I gotta kill somebody.
Sorry, I was in a real weird place when I wrote that.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
you got to give an answer, and you have to pick one.
Can I sacrifice myself to the killer?
You cannot. Nope. You could try to stab yourself, but the knife bounces back.
I feel like I'm dying.
Well, hold on.
No, you don't know.
I mean, we just really, we really see who is worthy in Vicky's eyes here.
Can I like just wait out the clock here until we have to leave?
you can,
and
you
not
can,
answer?
you can talk it out, but you got to give us something.
You try to filibuster.
And if you don't give us an answer in 30 seconds, Beckett turns into a lizard.
Or we both die.
Obviously, this question is for entertainment purposes.
Yeah,
I'm not over here trying to get all dark.
I won't
Obviously,
take any
this question
offense.
sucks.
It
Big
don't,
time.
they're supposed to suck. I mean, it sucked for you, Beckett. You're
Yeah.
putting us on Skid Row.
No, now I have to take care of all 3 of you.
Yeah, but I don't have a loophole in this. I can't help anybody out. Somebody's dying.
Someone's getting it, and it's Saw style. You've seen Saw, right? You know about that.
Well, Beckett would pass out before anything happened to him because he'd be so scared.
So it looks
right.
like Beckett's getting it because he's
Yeah, because
he's
he'd
the
pass
bitch.
out. He'd pass out, so he wouldn't even realize that he was being tortured because he'd already be passed out.
So Beckett gets it first because
That's the only loophole I can find
he's
out.
bitch boy Beckett. That sucks,
I'm
man.
a sacrificial lamb.
Oh man.
You don't want to see a grown
He
man
won't-
cry.
He won't feel anything. He'll be passed out.
Would you honestly, if you were in that situation where you awoke and you are chained to a wall and then an intercom, hello, we're gonna play a game. Do you cry as a man, as a
I'd
grown
be
man?
like, dude, this is awful.
Yeah, how do you handle that? Do you cry?
I don't know. I think that
I
mean,
wouldn't
I mean,
cry.
I shed a tear. I think in Lion King, but I think that you never know.
That sad ass movie.
We've all done that. Beckett.
you never know until you're in the situation. But I think that it would be so over the top, scared that you don't cry.
Surreal.
Yeah, like like you're in shock sometimes. Like
Yeah.
you lose an arm and you're in shock. I think that you would probably go in psychological.
But
physical
I'm
shock.
talking. This is 48 hours of him on the intercom. Beckett, yes, I'm watching you breathe. I like that hair. It's gonna go
Buffalo
great.
Bill.
It's gonna go great on my salad. Like
Bu-
that's the games he's playing.
Buffalo Bill style.
Yeah, to where there's a lot of I think at that point, I would 12 hours in, I would say I'm probably gonna die and fuck this guy. He's not getting me. I'm going to. That's what I would hope,
Yeah.
and I would try to weird him out into the final moments. I would hope.
Yeah.
But
I would just assume that you're gonna die, and there's no penalty for you trying to get out.
Yeah.
You might as well just do anything
Yeah.
you can,
To
because if he
get out.
kills you while getting out, it's probably gonna be better.
Yeah, and then try to inflict pain on him. Go taking anything of his out.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
sick, it's sick and it's morbid, but I've thought about like if there was ever like a terrorist thing, like do you like in that moment, like say, like Flight 93, like are in that moment, do you sit back and like say like okay, like this guy's going to take over the plane, or do like as soon as someone gets up and starts doing it, you right away right then like attack, right?
Well, I
Yeah.
think now, the thing that is a positive for us, we have a little bit of knowledge on that now. I think if something was squirrely going on a plane, I think you kind of get, okay, it might be going down right
For
now.
sure.
You
I
better
think-
situational awareness.
I think back then,
It caught people off
caught
guard.
them off by surprise. You probably
Totally.
don't even realize what's happening. You probably are questioning if it's even real or not.
Yeah.
And by the time you realize it's real, it's too late.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
'Cause it's so surreal and so out there. I mean, I had somebody email me that had been attacked before. They were in their apartment. Someone broke in, stabbed them a couple times, and they said it just was so surreal. They didn't even realize what was happening until halfway through, and then adrenaline kicks in. I mean, I couldn't imagine that. I could
Yeah.
not imagine waking up somebody on your bed with a knife.
Oh,
Yeah. Well,
horrifying.
it's crazy. It gave me chills last night listening on CNN to one of the guys that was on the plane, the Southwest plane where the engine blew up.
Yeah.
And he was being interviewed by Don Lemon, and he was explaining what was going on, and they had no idea what was happening. And the lady died.
I know.
It was crazy.
Terrible.
And that was 2 seats in front of him. And they were going down. He didn't know if they were going into the water, into a building, like whatever. And like and this one guy next to him was trying to get his wife to like say his goodbyes, like to be put in that situation. Oh my God! Like
You would hope if you survive something like that, you do change your perspective.
For sure.
Where
for sure.
you don't let certain stuff get to you. I mean, of course, matters of the heart mean a great
sure,
deal to
yeah.
you, but
and your livelihood,
Yeah,
it's like as far as income, but like
shit that doesn't matter. Because there's so much that doesn't matter,
yeah.
man.
you
your-
would take a lot off your plate.
to your earlier point, like it's unfortunate that we need that to happen for us to like
To remind you.
It
Yeah,
is
to sn-
unfortunate. It
Yeah.
is very unfortunate.
That's why I think it's healthy to think about death every now and then to prepare you for the inevitable.
We've talked about the practicing dying while you're alive. It's a it's a meditation technique where you seriously sit down, you think about your demise, you think about your death, only so you are at peace with it when it does come. It makes it a little bit easier. It's a morbid thing for some people,
sure.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's heavy, man. It's a heavy thing.
Yep.
For sure.
But all right, Denny's, your last one. Man, was that a tangent? Denny's, would you rather? Would you rather? Okay, send Vicky, myself, and Beckett, along with all of our families, to hell for 25 years,
Oh my God.
or send yourself and Jen there for 5. Who goes? Now, keep in mind, when you come back from hell, you're back on Earth 25 years later for us, or 5 years later for you, with all of that knowledge of what happened on hell. So,
Damn. Would you guys be spiteful if I sent you?
You take those mental, you bring back those mental scars. And when I say hell, it is.
I mean, it's like the epitome of hell.
Well, so you hate spiders. When you get there, the devil has a spider face, and he grabs you with his arms, and your
He's
whole
just
life,
doing wicked, sinful
you're
things.
entrenched in spider work. That's your
gotcha.
hell. Whatever Jen's
God,
hell
that
is.
sucks.
For me, I hate heights and buildings. I'm always on the top of a building. I can never get out of it.
Yeah, that's rough, man. That's rough.
Who do you send to hell?
I mean, 25 years, you guys would probably get over it after a while, right? I mean, it's so long of a time.
Damn. Man, radio has made you
I
cold.
am kidding. I'd probably have to sacrifice myself. Me and Jen, I'm sorry, Jen.
Do you
She'd hate it.
really?
Yeah, because, I mean, I can't ruin you and 2 generations of you guys' families. Like,
What if it was 5 years and 5 years?
5 and 5? Ooh, that does make it easier. But you guys would come back and you would hate me something
We
fierce,
do.
I'd
I mean, imagine, us leaving right now. We come back in 5 years.
Oh, you guys would hate me.
We would not be able to do a podcast.
We wouldn't hang
together.
out ever, yeah. So I'd probably have to do it myself, sacrifice.
Okay, might I point out that both Beckett and Denny's choices, they could do some self-sacrificing. I had to sacrifice someone.
Well, I just
And
want.
I was the guy that got
So-
sacrificed.
Think about this when you write them next.
Well, the reason why I gave you that question, Vicky, because I know you are mature enough to handle it.
I think Vicky should be able to ask Jay Bird the question.
Oh, bring on your shit. I like your would you rather's. You can't freak this mind.
Would you rather turn into a teen wolf or a teen lizard?
Oh, that's easy.
Why?
Denny's. What was last week? Would I rather have jam
All right,
or,
obviously,
or like a jam
Paste,
or
paste.
I was trying to think of one on the fly, and obvious
Get-
choice
get-
is lizard, right?
Give me one more. Give me one more.
Make it like a tough one.
Make it real
A tough
tough. Make
one?
me sweat this one out.
Would you rather have gigantic hands? Like they're giant. Like you can't even barely fit through doorways. They're an inconvenience to your life.
Okay.
Or would you rather have like a giant like nose? And it's on your stomach. I don't know, man. It's so hard to think of one on the fly.
I go with the giant hands.
I don't even care what the
I think
answer
I'd
is. That was
give-
a terrible one.
I give killer massages. I feel like with those
Big
No,
hands would be rough, dog.
No, that was an awful question. No, I loved it. Does anybody have anything they want to add on to the podcast? We're going a little bit late today. Anyone want to tag anything on the end of this
Yeah,
thing?
somehow I became like the sex doll guy on the show. But
Yeah, what happened?
I saw that there is the first sex doll brothel
Oh yeah, I can
Oh.
see how that's gonna happen
in Germany,
Yeah.
and they're paying like $100 some an hour.
Ugh, I hope they're cleaning those dolls.
Oh, dude.
Did you get a good deal on your ticket?
Oh, Vicky with the zinger. I like it.
Try not to get a computer virus.
Oh, Denny's. Okay. I got nothing. I don't know about computers. Okay. Very, very good
Where
note,
is
Beckett.
it now?
It's in Germany.
Oh, dude.
Way to end the podcast on a weird
Avita
note. I
say.
like it.
Well, in theory, it's safer than a human.
Well, yeah.
because you can clean it.
You can't clean it. Yeah, you're right. You could argue that a
And let's hope
robot,
they do.
a robot private part is different than a human.
Yeah.
They should just swap it out. It's like just an interchangeable piece. That way you don't even have to clean it.
I think the whole cleaning thing for robots, if I'm going to do a brothel and I know that some dude was in there before me, I want a different piece. I don't want a cleaning.
But every girl that you've been with has probably been like that.
Yeah, but that's human, Becky. That's the difference.
The vagina is self-cleaning.
Yeah, it's a self-cleaning organism.
Oh,
It
whatever.
sheds its walls, dog.
Look, I don't have the parts, and I feel Vicky asking that question, so I think we need to move on from that one. Vicky, anything to add on to this podcast?
Oh, good.
You want to add on to Beckett's removable robot vagina? Okay. And Denny's, anything to add?
We'll probably have that video up from Seance. We'll take some highlights and put them up.
Yeah,
imagine.
well, we'll take some highlights, like Denny said. I thought a lot more happened than what really happened, apparently.
There were people watching, though. I went into work on Monday, and my assistant principal came in and said, I saw you. And I'm like, where? Huh? What?
Oh, nice. Okay. Oh, look at that. We got principals watching.
Oh, yeah.
Very educational. Okay, guys, thank you for listening. We love you all, and Bigfoot is real.